Hello, friends. Uh, Once again, I welcome you all on this virtual platform for my second lecture on scattering theory. Friends, my first lecture, I gave you the kinematics of scattering process, and I have defined differential scattering cross section and total scattering cross section in first lecture. But today we would like to study scattering amplitude. So before we go for learning scattering amplitude, first of all, let me revise uh, some facts of the first lecture, and then we will immediately start the session for scattering amplitude. You see, we have discussed that whenever you have a monoenergetic beam of incident particle and when it is directed towards the target, right? The target, you may have a nucleus, or you have a nuclei, atom, group of atoms. So it will produce a potential field surrounding the target. And when a beam is directed towards the scatterer, the beam of the incident particle or a particle will scatter at angle theta. So this angle theta we have defined as an angle of scattering, and it is the angle between the scattered particle and the incident particle. This is the direction of incident particle, and it is the direction of the scattered particle. So this is the angle between the scattered particle with respect to the direction of incident particle is known as angle theta, angle of scattering. And I define angle phi, that is it is the angle between the scattered plane, which is measured with respect to the reference plane. The reference plane is the plane which is accommodating your z-axis, and generally we say that this reference plane is the plane which accommodates your incident particles. So this angle phi is the angle between the scattered plane and the reference plane, and the direction of scattering is basically defined by these two polar angles theta and phi. So we have discussed last time that our polar axis is a z-axis. Over the z-axis, at the origin we have kept the target, and target is at present it is stationary. You may have a heavy target, you may have a light target, and you have the two angle polar angle theta and phi, which describes the scattering process. The direction of scattered beam is characterized by the two polar angle theta and phi. So that we have discussed. And now because you see today we want to understand scattering amplitude. Generally, scattering amplitude is giving you the probability of scattering in a given direction or in a desired direction, I would say. So the probability of scattering in a given direction is characterized by a scattering amplitude. So this scattering amplitude is somehow related with a differential scattering cross section. So in order to understand the scattering amplitude, you should know about differential scattering cross section. I have discussed last time a differential scattering cross section. Let us revise it before we proceed for a scattering amplitude. Here you can see a diagram which represent the physics of scattering cross section. Here you can see that you have a beam of incident particle right? It is directed towards the target. So the incident beam is scattered, and it is scattered at angle theta, and we have defined the scattering cross section is basically a ratio, and this ratio I have discussed here, that it is the number of scattered particles per unit solid angle to the number of incident particle crossing unit area normal to the beam in a unit time. So you see this factor which we have discussed last time, that the differential scattering cross section, which is basically a function of theta and phi, is equal to small n divided by d omega. Small n is the number of particles scattered into the solid angle d omega in unit time. Please remember. And the capital N is basically a number of incident particles crossing unit area normal to the beam in a unit time. So here this diagram is given to you. You can see this diagram. So this is the solid angle d omega. Your detector is kept at a very large distance from the target. And when you have an incident beam, when you direct towards the target, it is scattered, and the scattered particle will move in a radially outward direction. It will diverge. It will move in a radially outward direction, and we want to study the scattered particle at a very large distance. Yeah. This is our polar axis, this is the target, and we have calculated small n. Small n is basically number of particles scattered into this solid angle d omega in a unit time. So we have a factor small n divided by d omega is the number of particles scattered per unit solid angle. This you can see here. This is the fact. Number of scattered particles per unit solid angle. So this factor which we have calculated, this is known as the differential scattering cross section. The differential scattering cross section has a dimension of length square, because you are measuring n. You are measuring n is the number of incident particles crossing per unit area. So this is number of particles per unit area. So if you calculate the dimension of sigma theta phi is a dimension of length square. So please remember that the dimension of differential scattering cross section is equal to the length square. Now, once you know this mechanism of the scattering, we have calculated the total solid angle. So you have to integrate the differential solid angle over the entire solid angle. That is because this is the d omega is the solid angle in which particles are scattered. But if you want to calculate the total cross section, you have to integrate the differential solid over the total solid angle, and this is the formula which we have derived last time. So with this background, now let us proceed to understand the scattering amplitude. As I said that it is giving you the probability of a scattering in a given direction. So now let us try to understand first of all I would like to give you a classical picture and then we would like to go for a quantum picture. Here you see that you have a scatterer, right? And you have a incident beam having energy E with an impact parameter B. This is the impact parameter which you have studied in a Rutherford scattering formula. We have a classical picture. You have an incident beam with energy E having impact parameter B, that is the closest distance approach. Having this heavy impact parameter B, when it is directed towards the scatterer, the incident beam, the beam of particle or the particle will scatter. So you have a angle of scattering. This is angle of theta. So this is the classical picture you have already applied at second year BSc, and you have studied the atom model using Rutherford formula. Now, this year we would like to study the quantum picture. So the quantum picture is this. Now let me explain how we will solve our problem. That you consider that you have a beam of incident particle, right? This beam of incident particle is directed along the z-axis. So this is your polar axis where you are directing your beam. The beam is monoenergetic, identical particles are moving along z direction. Now, when you consider this beam of particle, incident beam of particle, and when the incident of beam of particle is a large distance from the scatterer, this is your target here. Your target is kept at the origin on the z-axis. And when the beam is at a large distance, this beam of particle does not experience any potential field produced by the scatterer. So we can say at large distance r, the potential observed by the incident particle is zero. So one can consider this beam of particle which is directed towards the scatterer is considered as a set of plane waves propagating along z direction. Please remember, here we would like to study the wave nature. So here I consider a beam of plane wave is treated as set of plane waves propagating along z direction towards the scatterer. You see, the plane wave is expressed as e to the power of I k dot r, where k is known as a propagation vector k, right? Its magnitude is 2 pi over lambda, and the direction k is a vector which represents its direction. If your wave, if your wave is if your plane wave is moving along r direction, then we write down the expression as e to the power of I k dot r. But our plane wave in this case is propagating along z direction. So we can write that expression of the plane wave is e to the power of ikz, because your k vector k is in the direction of vector z. So theta is equal to 0. So here you can write down e to the power of ik dot r is correct, is written as e to the power of ikz. So please remember that your incident beam is generally is consisting a set of plane waves. So now when these plane waves enters in the field of potential which is produced by the scatterer, by the target, these plane waves are scattered. The scattered waves are basically a spherical wave. So the plane wave which is interacting with the potential field of the scatterer, and the plane waves are scattered, and you get the spherically scattered wave. So you have a spherical scattered wave which is scattered in the outward direction, and the scattered waves are diverging. So you have a spherically scattered diverging wave which is moving radially outward direction. Please remember this. Once again I am repeating, it is a spherically scattered wave which is diverging in a radially outward direction. So you have the spherical wave, the scattered waves are spherical. These spherical waves are moving radially outward. They are moving, they are diverging. And at a large distance, if you keep your detector at a large, suppose here, if you keep your detector here, and that at that time you see the potential of the scatterer is negligible, and you want to study a scattered wave at a large distance from the scatterer, because we want to study the asymptotic behavior of the scattered wave. So we have your detector. This detector will detect the scattered spherical wave at a large distance, and this scattered wave is basically bringing or carrying the signature of the target that we would like to identify. Now you have your scattered wave at large distance, and one can use your Schrodinger wave equation, because basically you have a system of two particles. You have a incident particle and you have a you have a scatterer, right? So you, whenever the distance between the two particles is relatively changing, please remember, whenever the distance, this is the scatterer and this is your incident particle, so we may consider that this is a system of two particles in which the relative distance is continuously changing. So the potential is changing here. So here you can apply your Schrodinger equation for a system of two particles in which the distance is relatively changing, and you see that we have studied in third year BSc that if you have a system of two particles in which the distance is relatively changing, you can apply this Schrodinger wave equation del square psi. Del square is an Laplacian operator, and we can use this in a spherical polar coordinate system. Del square psi plus 2 mu over h cross, where mu is the reduced mass of what? Reduced mass of the system of two particles. We have two particles. You see, we have a capital M and we have a small m. So here I write small m is the mass of the incident particle, and capital M is the mass of the target which you have considered here. So this is the, which I write down the mass of the target. And so we have V of R. V of R is the potential which we are interested. We would like to study the potential which is basically produced by the target. It may be a Coulombian potential also. So we are, most of the cases the potential is Coulombian potential. So we have this Schrodinger wave equation, and you know that this the eigenfunction psi, which we would like to find out the solution of this Schrodinger wave equation, and we will study its asymptotic behavior, and we would like to detect. So you see, I have the incident beam, which is treated as the plane wave. The expression of the plane wave I wrote in the form of e to the power of ikz, because your incident wave, that is your plane wave, is propagating along the z direction. Now I wrote the expression here. I wrote the expression of the spherically scattered wave, which is scattered, which is diverging in a radially outward direction, and I wrote in the form of e to the power of ikr, and it is basically a spherical wave. So we will write down the expression of a spherical wave when we write down the eigenfunction for the scattered wave. So now, with this introduction, please remember that we want to study the wave nature of the scattered wave at a large distance. So we would like to study, and first of all, we would like to understand the scattering amplitude. Here you see that the scattered beam, which is scattered at angle theta, which you consider at theta, is basically known as angle of scattering. And you see, so we have a two important parameter in scattering theory, that the direction of the scattered beam is characterized by the two polar angle theta and phi. You see, generally we have angle phi is the angle phi between the orientation of the plane. Phi is basically measure the orientation of plane with respect to the reference plane. You see, sometimes your target is having azimuthal symmetry. Suppose your target has an azimuthal symmetry. In that case, the scattered particle is observed in the same plane, that is the trajectory, the scattered particle trajectory is observed in the same plane. In that case, your angle of scattering theta plays very important part, and in that case, the direction of the scattered particle is characterized by only one parameter, that is angle theta. So sometime, sometime also whenever you have the potential of the target, and if the potential of the target is spherically symmetric, in that cases you will have your scattered beam will be in the same direction of your in the direction of the reference plane. As I said, that angle phi is basically the angle between the orientation, it is between the scattered plane and the reference plane. But if your particle which is scattered, which is in the same plane, that is in the reference plane, then you may write down that your scattering cross section is independent of phi, which I said last time. And I derived the expression of total scattering cross section, and I said that if potential is spherically symmetric, then if potential is spherically symmetric, then we have derived the expression of total scattering cross section, and yes, and we have found the expression of total scattering cross sections. So please remember that if you have a target, if the target has an azimuthal symmetry means the scattered beam, the scattered particle trajectory is in the same plane of is in the same plane in the is the same plane of the plane of a incident particle. Then you can write down that the the direction of scattering is characterized by only one parameter, that is the angle of scattering theta. Well, friends, once you understand this, this geometry of the plane wave and the scattered wave, let us understand the physics of this scattering amplitude. So now you see here, first of all, I write down the expression for the incident wave. This is the incident wave, which is basically considered as set of plane wave, which is moving along that direction. So I may write down the incident beam is referred as, let us write down, I stands for incidence. So I write down psi I. This is basically some constant A into exponential of e to the power of I k dot r. I said that k and r is a direction. It's a general direction. When a wave is propagating in r direction, we write the expression of plane wave is e to the power of I k dot r, and this is the constant. Basically, is you have a normalization constant A. So psi I, that is the incident wave, is referred as A exponential of e to the power of k dot r, where V of r, the potential is zero, because at a large distance, your incident particle does not experience any potential field produced by the scatterer or by the target. Here you have a k is a wave vector, and we know this wave vector is defined as the momentum p divided by the reduced Planck constant h cross, because p equal to h cross k. P is equal to h cross k. So k is equal to p over h, and p is the momentum. Momentum is mass into velocity. Mass is mu, reduced mass. So it's a reduced mass, and v is the velocity of the incident beam, the incident particle. So you know this is mass into the velocity, that is mu v over h cross. And since our incident particle is moving along z direction, so I write down psi I equal to some constant a e to the power of I k z, and this is the same expression which is mentioned over the figure, e to the power of I k z, because wave function should be a finite, continuous, and single value. So we have to write down some normalization constant a. So I write down a constant a into e to the power of I k z is basically the incident wave, which is directed towards the scatterer, and it is propagating along z direction with a finite momentum, with a definite momentum. It is moving along z direction. The particles are identical, they are having same energy for moving along the z direction. So this is the expression of the plane wave which I wrote down, that is for the incident wave. So this is I considered as an equation number one. So this is my equation number one. Z is the direction, particle is moving along the z axis. Your target, your scatterer is kept on the z axis at the origin. So this is the incident plane wave. Before the scattering, you can write down this is one quantum state e to the power of its quantum state is represented by e to the power of I k z. So this is psi I is equal to a e to the power of I k z. And here you see, here you please write down the detector is far away from the scatterer, and we are interested only in asymptotic form of the scattered wave, as the scattered intensity depends upon angle theta and angle phi. The spherically diverging scattered wave can be represented by the form. You have the scattered wave. So scattered wave is basically is intensity depending upon angle theta and phi. So here I write down the scattered wave. The scattered wave, I write down the constant A. Then this is the factor which I am writing f, which is a function of theta and phi, which is basically known as scattering amplitude. Please remember this I am writing here, the scattering amplitude f theta phi is a factor which is I'm representing as a scattering amplitude. So some constant a into the scattering amplitude into the factor e to the power of I k r divided by r. This is the factor 1 upon r is kept to keep the conservation of probability, and that we will see when we solve the numerical problem, where I will teach you why 1 upon r is kept here. Once again I am repeating, This is the expression of the scattered wave. Here I kept 1 upon r is a factor which is with this 1 upon r factor is kept to conserve the probability, to study the conservation of a probability that we will see when we have a numerical problem where I will explain you what is the interpretation of a factor 1 upon r. You can also write a f theta phi into e to the power of ikr. But here I am writing 1 upon r for some special reason. That reason we will see when we will solve a numerical problem. So please remember. So this is the equation I wrote here, right? This equation is the equation for a scattered wave. That is, this wave is a spherical wave which is scattered, which is diverging, and is diverging in a radially outward direction in the r direction. It is moving radially outward in the direction r, right? And we want to detect this wave at a very large distance. But please remember that you look at this, you look at the diagram, and if you look at this diagram, you see that you have an incident wave. Most of the incident wave is scattered, but there is a probability that certain plane waves are not scattered. So you have unscattered plane wave along z direction, and those waves which are scattered. Please remember the plane wave which is incident or the plane wave which is incident and directed along the direction of z-axis, right? So there is a probability that there some plane waves are unscattered. So this is basically, and this is unscattered, so it moves along the z-axis, right, with the same waveform, having the same wave nature, and its expression will be e to the power of I k dot r. So the scattered particle have a two eigenstates, right? The eigenstate, there are two eigenstates. So this is the plane waves. It is represented by e to the power of ikr, and you have the spherically scattered wave. So the spherically scattered wave will represent the one eigenstate that can be represented by e to the power of ikr divided by r. This is the one eigenstate. And there is another eigenstate that is the only plane wave which is unscattered. The wave is not at all scattered, so that is given by e to the power of ikr. So there are two eigenstates. Once you have the scattering, there are two eigenstates. The wave which is not scattered is basically is remaining as a plane wave. So that plane wave is referred as e to the power of ikr, e to the power of ik dot r, and r is in the z direction, so it will be e to the power of ikz. And the other part, the other component is basically the spherically scattered wave in a radially outward direction, r direction. So it is e to the power of ikr divided by r. So you please remember this expression which I'm writing here. So if you look at the expression for the scattered wave, this is the right. This is a solution for the scattered wave. I write down a, it's a constant, e to the power of ikz, that is the wave which is not scattered, is a plane wave along that direction, and this part, the wave which is a scattered part, which I wrote here, which you can see, a f theta phi, that is the scattering amplitude, into e to the power of ikr and the factor 1 upon r, which I said that. Okay, so please remember this is you write down, and here this you write the scattered function psi s, and we are taking at r tends to infinite at a very large distance, and we want to study asymptotic behavior. That's why I write down R stands to give. So now here what we will do, we shall deduce the relation between the scattering amplitude f theta and the differential scattering cross section. So as I said that we want to find out f theta phi, and you see here I write down f is a function of theta and phi, you see, right? And when I write down the general expression, when I wrote only f of theta because I consider that potential is spherically symmetric. Please remember, if potential is not spherically symmetric, then your scattering amplitude f is a function of theta and phi. But if the potential is spherically symmetric, that means the plane of orientation, which is the orientation, that is the scattered plane and the reference plane are in the same, there is no orientation between the scattered plane as well as the reference plane. I would say that the potential is spherically symmetric. In that case, your scattering amplitude is only depending upon the angle of scattering theta. And this is the angle, this theta is the angle of scattering, that is the angle between the scattering particle and scattered particle and the incident direction. It is the angle between the scattered particle with the incident direction that you people know. Now you look at this expression and we want to find out the expression for scattering cross sections. So now we will do some sort of algebraic calculations. So let us work out some exercise we will work out. As you know, when you study that Ehrenfest theorem and you have studied the conservation of probability density, and you have derived the expression of a probability current density vector. The probability current density vector, that is because of the flow of particle, you have a current density vector, and because we have a particle, incident particle, so there is a flow of incident particle along z direction. Similarly, there is a flow of scattered particle along the r direction, as well as unscattered particles is also flowing, or it's also moving along the z direction. So you have to find out now current density vector because of the stream of two incident particles as well as the scattered particles. So this is the general expression that the current density vector J, which is a function of r and t, that is the position r and t, is given by h cross, this is a reduced Planck constant, divided by 2 mu I into the fact in the bracket you have psi star gradient of psi minus gradient of psi star psi. This is the expression which you people have derived at second year BSc to study the conservation of probability current density. And this expression, you please refer the textbook of quantum mechanics by Matthews and Venkatesan. This expression is derived. Even you can also refer your Arul Das textbook, where you refer the chapter of expectation value, average value of a dynamical variable, and the Ehrenfest theorem, where this equation is derived. So here I will not derive this expression for a probability current density vector, and look at this expression now. Once you know this expression of current density vector, so we can have a current density vector because of the incident beam of particle. So I write down it is Ji. I stands for incident particle. And similarly, you will have the current density vector because of the scattered particle. So that I will write down S was scattered. So I will put the subscript S here. So if I put the subscript S here, so it will represent a probably current density vector because of the spherically, right, spherically diverging beam. Or you can say, yeah, spherical, you have a spherical wave which is diverging, so you have a scattered beam. So I write down JS. So let us, we shall now calculate the incident and scattered probability current density using this equation, right? So now let us write down this expression, the same expression I am writing here. So you see, this is the expression of current density, which I write down J R of T is the same, where mu is the reduced mass. And you know this is the reduced mass. This is because we have a system of two particles. We have a system, two particles are interacting and their relative distance is changing as the particle is approaching towards the scatterer. The potential V of R, where R is relatively changing. So we have a system of two particles, so it is represented by the reduced mass, which I have defined, right? So now we can use this formula. So now, using this formula of the probability current density, let us find out probability current density of the incident wave. So this I write down I, so Ji. So what is our wave function? What is our wave function for the incident wave? Which is, we have already written A e to the power of I k z. Why z? Because your wave is propagating along z direction. Why e to the power of I k z? Because it is a plane wave. So you have a plane wave propagating along z direction with a finite definite momentum, right? Which is directed towards the target, towards the scatterer. So I wrote this incident expression of the incident wave function, that is psi I is equal to, where A is a constant, some constant A, which is used to normalize the wave function, right? So now I write down this expression, general expression. This is the general expression. Now I'm writing for the incident current density. So instead of writing J, I write down Ji. You look at this is R and T. You have H cross. So if we have a H cross, this is 2 mu I. So remaining 2 mu. Instead of psi, I write down psi I star, great psi. So now psi is replaced by psi I minus great psi star. So great psi I star into psi I. So now let us substitute the value of psi I and psi I star. So this factor is remaining as it is. So I'm keeping. So this is opening parenthesis. So opening parenthesis psi I star. So you take a complex conjugate of this. The complex conjugate of psi I, it is A. So I write down A star. Then e to the power of ikz, the complex conjugate of e to the power of ikz is e to the power of minus ikz. So you know this psi I star. So this is psi I star I write down here. Now this is a gradient. So this is a gradient. Psi I. So psi I is a to the power of ikz. So a into e to the power of ikz I am keeping. Gradient of this, basically it is giving you space variation. So it is a differential operator. So when gradient operator operates on this operand, operand is a e to the power of I k z. So it will differentiate the function with respect to the z axis, because it is a differential operator. So it will differentiate this operator because this is the operator which always differentiate, right? Then you have a minus sign, so I have a minus sign. Then you see I'm putting a parenthesis because it's gradient of psi I. I'm keeping in parenthesis, this is gradient of. Then psi I star, you can see a star minus I k z, and you have a psi I. So psi I also you can see this psi I can keep in a to the power of, you can keep here, no, but I keep here psi I, right? Now let us once again proceed. You see, I keep this factor a star e to the power of minus I k z unchanged. So this I'm keeping as it is. Now gradient of this. So this is nothing but del by del z of a to the power of ikz. So it is del by del z of a into e to the power of ikz. So it is a differentiation of this function with respect to z axis. So e to the power of ikz it is, and the differentiation with respect to z axis. So we have a ik e to the power of ikz. So I hope you understand this step. So this step is clearly mentioned here. I have a minus sign, so I'm keeping a minus sign. Then the curly bracket, I am keeping the curly bracket. Now I'm taking the gradient of this. You see the gradient of this again. So this a star is constant, a star is constant, and differentiation with respect to z axis. But now your differentiation of minus ikz. So I have a minus ik here and e to the power of minus ikz, and this psi I am keeping the value of psi I. This psi I is a e to the power of ikz. So this value is kept here. You look at this value. This is the value of psi I. This is psi I am keeping here. So now let us go simplify this step. So you can see this h cross upon 2 mu I remaining same. Your opening parenthesis, now you see this is a star into a, right? You can write down mod psi square is psi star. You have studied mod psi square is psi star. So a star a is mod of a square, this product. Then you can see we have this e to the power of minus ikz and e to the power of plus ikz. They cancel, e to the, it becomes e to the power of 0 is 1, and you know this ik factor remain as it is. So this ik factor remain as it is. I hope you understand this step. And now here you will see there is a minus sign here and there is a minus sign here. So this minus minus gives you positive, so there is a positive sign. And you can this a star into a, it gives you more a square, right? And you can see this minus, this gives you plus ik, and e to the power of minus ikz, e to the power of plus ikz gives you e to the power of 0, e to the power of 0 is 1. So ultimately this term gives you a square ik, and this other term is giving you a square ik. So this gives you 2 ik a square, and you have the there is a factor h cross upon 2 mu I. So you can see these two cancels, I cancels, and ultimately you get the incident current density flux. You see this is incident current density, incident probability current density Ji, which you see, which I have already mentioned. Probability current density of the incident wave. So probability current density of the incident wave, I stands for incident, and that factor that comes out to be the expression. You see I write down h cross k, right, upon mu a mod of a square. H cross k is momentum, so I write down momentum upon mu. Momentum is mass into velocity. So mass is the reduced mass, so because we have a system of two interacting particles. So it mu v is this is v small. Please remember this is a small factor v. It's not a capital V. It's a small v is a velocity of the incident particle. Please remember all the particles are identical. They are monoenergetic. They are moving along the same direction. They are moving along the z direction. Their velocity is same. So this velocity is v. So mu into v upon mu on mod of a square. This mu cancels, so it gives you the v, the velocity of the particle of right incident particle into mod of a square. So the probability current density of the incident wave is v mod of a square. So this is the expression. These are simple calculations. I mentioned all the steps. These steps are not given in the textbook, but these you can write it down, right? And now we will find out the probability current density of the scattered wave. So let us do this calculation and let us see each steps. I wrote it here specifically to mention you how you can derive the probability current density of the scattered wave. Look at this is the expression, this is the general expression which we have already derived at second year BAC. So this I am rewriting because you see this expression I wrote here. You at this is the expression which this is the probability current density. If you want to find out the scattered wave, you write down wherever J appears, you write down JS. And here this is basically psi of scattered wave. So psi s star, gradient of psi s minus gradient of psi s star. And here you have a scattered wave, that is the wave from scattered wave, that is psi s, which is represented by wave psi s. So this expression I wrote it here, and this expression, look at this expression. So this expression is here psi star gradient of psi s minus gradient of psi star psi s. Okay, now let us see your what is the form of psi s. The form of psi is A f theta, because it is a spherically symmetric potential. So your scattering amplitude is only depending upon theta, right? Does not depends upon phi. So I can write down, instead of f theta phi, I can write down f theta, like total scattering cross section. We have defined sigma is a function of theta. So here we have a scattering amplitude is a function of theta. So A f theta e to the power of I k r over r, because your scattered wave is propagating, it is diverging, right? It is a spherical wave, it is diverging in the really outward direction, in the r direction. So I wrote here r. So now let us see the form of psi s star. So you take a complex conjugate of psi s star. So A star f theta star e to the power of minus I k r over r. So I'm keeping here. Then the space derivative, that is the del operator. So del operator, I put the psi s. So psi s is a f theta e to the power of I k r over r, right? Please concentrate here. And now you have a minus sign, so I have a minus sign. A curly bracket, opening curly bracket, so I put opening curly bracket. Opening closing parenthesis, you can see the opening closing parenthesis. A gradient, so I have a gradient. Psi star. So psi star is, once again you take a complex conjugate of this scattered wave. So that is a star f theta star e to the power of minus the I, because it is e to the power is complex conjugate of e to the power of I k r minus I k r. So minus I k r over r, and the bracket is over. So this bracket is over, right? And so this I'm keeping here. Then psi s. So psi s is again a f theta e to the power of I k r over r. So this you have a curly bracket, so closing curly bracket, and the parenthesis over. So you can see this parenthesis over here. So once you understand this step, now let us go to the next step. The next step is now this step remain as it is. You look at this step remain as it is. So I'm keeping this step as it is. So A star f star theta e to the power of I minus. Now this is the space derivative with respect to r, because you have this function is a function of r. So you see there are two functions, e to the power of I k r over r. So first of all, please remember, I differentiate e to the power of I k r, and I'm keeping 1 upon r constant. So this is basically a differentiation del by del r. So you see a is constant, f theta, then differentiation of e to the power of I k r. So differentiation of e to the power of I k r is I k into e to the power of I k r. So I'm keeping this factor. If you look at this, right, and you have 1 upon r. So I'm keeping 1 upon r constant. So 1 upon r is constant, and the differentiation of e to the power of I k r is I k into e to the power of I k r. So this you can see here. Now you have the second factor. The second factor, you keep one differentiation of 1 upon r, right? Differentiation of 1 upon r with respect to r is minus 1 upon r square. So there is a minus sign. So that's why I'm keeping a minus sign. And I kept a 1 upon r square, and the remaining factor is a f theta e to the power of I k r. So this term, you see there's this gradient operator, when it operates on this function, this operand has two functions. One function is e to the power of I k r, the other function is 1 upon r. So we use the product law, and using the product law we get these two terms, and we have a differentiation of the operand which we have calculated. So this term is known to you now. Now there is a minus sign is here, so you can see there is a minus sign. Look at this opening curly bracket. So your opening curly bracket. Now your opening bracket here. So opening bracket here. Then you see this is again you have a gradient of the two operand. There are these operand has two functions. The other one function is e to the power of minus ikr. The other part is 1 upon r. So we have to use the product law and we have to differentiate this operand with respect to r. So first you have to differentiate e to the power of minus ikr while keeping 1 upon r constant. And the second part you keep e to the power of minus ikr constant and differentiate 1 upon r. So I'm using this product law. So you can see a star f theta star is constant. I differentiate first e to the power of minus ikr. So if you differentiate e to the power of minus ikr with respect to r, it will be minus ik e to the power of minus ikr, and 1 upon r is constant, so 1 upon r is constant. Now you have the second factor. You see the second factor. Second factor is 1 upon, you have to differentiate 1 upon r with respect to is minus 1 upon r square. So there is a minus sign here and 1 upon r square factor. And the remaining factor is a star f theta e to the power of minus ikr. And this factor remain as it is. A, so you can see the a is a f theta over r, and there is a factor which is not printed here, that is e to the power of ikr. So this there is a factor e to the power of ikr. So please remember this part. You can see there is a factor e to the power of ikr. So now you can see if you simplify this expression again, so you can see, let us multiply this, let us open this bracket, this curly bracket. If you open this curly bracket, so you got a star into a gives you a square. This f star theta and you have theta f theta square. E to the power of minus ikr, e to the minus ik cancel. So this is ik, so this ik and 1 upon r, 1 upon r gives you 1 upon r square. So this term will give you the here. Now if you want, you look at the second term. So this is a star minus a gives you mod a square. F theta star f theta gives you f theta gives you mod of f theta square. E to the power of minus ikr, e to the plus ikr gives you e to the power of 0 is 1. Divided by r upon r square gives you r cube with a minus sign, because there is a minus sign here. So there is a minus sign and 1 upon r cube factor, right? Now, so this term is over. Now in the third chapter, look at there is a minus sign here, right? And there is a minus sign here. So this minus sign gives you plus sign. And you know now if you multiply this factor, so it will be a star into a is a f theta star f theta is f theta. Then this is minus. You see this is my ik, right? This is ik. This minus plus ik over 1 upon r, and this is 1 upon r. This 1 upon r is here. So 1 upon r of 1 upon r gives you 1 upon r square. So this equation you can write down. And similarly, if you multiply this factor with this factor, that a star a gives you mod a square, f star theta gives f theta, r square upon r, 1 upon r square into 1 upon r cube, e to the power of minus ikr and e to the power of this plus ikr which is here gives you 1. So you will have the four term number 1, term number 2, term number 3, term number 4. Now term number 3 and term number 4 are having equal with opposite signs. So term number second and term number 4 cancels each other. So ultimately you get the scattered probability current density is equal to h cross upon 2 mu I, and this term and these terms are identical. So it is 2 times mod of a square mod of f theta square ik over r square. And you know this, if you simplify this term, it comes to h cross k upon mu. And here you have the numerator mod a square mod of f theta square r square. H cross k is a momentum, so I write down momentum p over mu mod of a square mod of f theta square r square. So you have the probability current density of the scattered wave is right now this p is momentum is mass into the velocity, that is mu into v, right? The mu is numerator, mu in the denominator cancels, so we get the v is the velocity, and this is f theta square a square over r square. So this is the expression of the probability current density of this scattered wave which we have derived, right? And we have a probability current density of the incident wave. Probability current density of the incident wave is V into mod of a square. And look at the expression for the probability current density of this scattered wave, V of f theta square mod of a square divided by 1 upon r square. And now you know that if you look at the 1 upon r square, 1 upon r square is simply nothing but it is the solid angle subtended by a unit area at the, you see, at the scatterer. This is the scatterer, and this is your area. See, this is what we want to study. We want to keep our detector at a very large distance, at a distance r, where r is very large. Your detector is subtending some angle at the scatterer. So this is the area of the detector, and this detector is subtending angle omega or d omega at this origin, that this distance is very large, the r is very large, and this area I mentioned ds, this is the area, ds area, the area of the detector. If the area is 1 unit area, so if the area is unit, that is, it gives you ds over r square, so ds is 1, so the d omega will be 1 upon r square. You have studied this physics of solid angle and definition of the solid angle at first year BSc when we studied the differential form of the Cauchy's law, and I taught you the differential form of the Cauchy's law, and we have derived the expression using the concept of these cone and I would say that solid angle. So here you see this 1 upon r square, this expression which we write, and 1 upon r square is the solid angle subtended by the unit area of the detector at the scatterer center. ds over r square is the by the area, ds area, or ds over r square is the solid angle subtended by ds area of the let us say detector at the scatterer. So because your detector is subtending some angle, that is angle d omega at the detector, and that's why I can say that 1 upon r square is the solid angle subtended by a unit area of the detector at the scattering center. Here we have considered our potential is spherically symmetric. If potential is not spherically symmetric, then you have to take ds cos theta over r square. But here we have a special case, we consider ds over r square. So ds is basically the area of the detector, right? If the area is unit, then it is 1 upon r square. So 1 upon r square. So here you can see that this is basically the probability current density of the scattered wave per unit solid angle. Now this is 1 upon r square is the unit solid angle, right? So if you want to find out per unit solid angle, so the probability current density of the scattered wave per unit solid angle, so that is 1 upon r square is 1, so that becomes equal to v f theta whole square, that is a mod of f theta, and the constant a mod of constant a square. And now friends, you see that we have a definition of a differential scattering cross section right? Basically, you see here, I can say here, uh, uh, this is not a differential scattering. Yeah, let us. This is a differential scattering cross section here. That is defined as probability. There is a ratio which I am defining as probability current density of the scattered wave per unit solid angle. Please remember the differential scattering cross section sigma theta, which I am writing here, is equal to the probability current density of the scattered wave per unit solid angle to the probability current density of the incident wave. Once again, I am defining this ratio. A differential scattering cross section sigma theta. Please remember, because sigma is a function of theta and phi, but we have considered a special case. Potential is spherically symmetric. So differential scattering cross section is only depending upon angle theta. So if it is depending on theta is equal to ratio of probability current density of the scattered wave per unit solid angle, and we have calculated, you see in the upper term, you look at this, we have calculated probability current density of the scattered wave per unit solid angle is this ratio, I'm sorry, this value. So this value you can have a numerator, so you put the numerator v velocity f theta. F theta is what? That is a scattering amplitude, mode of scattering amplitude square, and you have the constant mode of a square divided by the probability current density of the incident wave. That is also we have calculated. Probability current density of the incident wave, which we have calculated here, and you can see this formula, and this formula which we have mentioned here. Look at this formula, and that is equal to probability current density of the incident wave is V mod of A square. So that value you can also keep in the denominator. So if you keep in the denominator, we can write that the scattering amplitude is related to the differential scattering cross section, right? The mode of scattering is the right, the mod of this, mod square of this f theta square, mod of f theta square, that is related with the differential scattering cross section. So one can say that the scattering amplitude is thus related to the differential scattering cross section. And you please remember that sigma theta, that is the differential scattering cross section, as a dimension of length square. So the dimension of length, so the sigma theta is a dimension of length square. So the dimension of f theta will be the length. So the dimension of scattering amplitude will be the length. See, to calculate the scattering amplitude, we have two different methods we would like to apply. The method which we will apply is known as the partial wave analysis, and there is another analysis which is given by Born approximation. So now once we calculate this scattering amplitude, and your scattering amplitude is related to the differential scattering cross section, now our intention is to write down the Schrodinger wave equation for a scattered wave, and we want to study the wave analysis. And by doing this wave analysis, we want to find out the scattering amplitude. To find the scattering amplitude, there are two methods which we would like to apply. There are the methods, these are the partial wave analysis and Born approximations. So next lecture, we would like to understand how to find out the scattering amplitude, right? And you know, here that the partial wave analysis is very important because you see that when you study the diagram here, you have the series of spherical waves. So you have this spherical wave. This spherical wave is, if you study the different spherical wave, the spherical wave, you have the types of spherical wave. You know, this spherical wave is diverging and it is moving in a radially outward direction. So you have a different type of spherical wave. The first spherical wave is considered as S wave. That is considered as S wave, which representing the orbital angular momentum L is equal to 0. Then you have L is equal to 1, you have L equal to 2. We will see how do you identify the S wave, P wave, D wave. So our basic intention is that the scattered wave which is diverging in a radially outward direction are of different type. These waves are characterized by their quantum number L, orbital angular quantum number L. So when your L is equal to 0, it is referred as a S wave. Then we have a L is equal to 1, it is referred as a P wave. So next lecture we will study the identification of the S wave, P wave, D wave, and we will take one numerical problem where we would like to write down that the beam of incident particle, when, as I said, when it is moving along Z direction, it is treated as a plane wave. So if you write down is expression of the beam which is moving along Z direction, the expression of that wave is turns out to be a plane wave expression e to the power of I phi z. So next lecture I would like to take a numerical problem to represent the incident plane wave, and once we developed the expression for the incident plane wave, we will uh, go for a partial wave analysis to find out the scattering amplitude. Okay, friends, I'll stop here. Thank you.